reach out asking like, "Hey, where's the podcast?" What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Get Paid for Your Pad. Today, I have a special guest, Derek Gizriel. He is out of where is it? An hour outside of San Antonio, Texas. And he quit his job, went all in on his short-term rentals, and he's crushing it. He's doubled or tripled the revenue in his first unit. He's currently going through our Let's X program. So lots to talk about. Derek, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's quite an honor to be here with you and with everyone else listening. So I appreciate it, and I appreciate all the guidance so far.
Yeah, and I've gotten a few emails because today is Wednesday, April 12th. We were supposed to record this on Monday on our standard publishing day for Get Paid for Your Pad. Got on a few emails from people saying like, "Hey, where's the podcast?" So what happens is actually kind of a funny story. I went to Bogota with my wife for Easter holiday. And we tried to record this podcast on Monday, actually, but the Wi-Fi in my hotel completely shut down. So literally, we were like 3 minutes in, and boom, it was gone. So we unfortunately weren't able to record this on Monday. But I appreciate the accountability from the people that have reached out. But yeah, now we are here. But before we dive into it, Derek, let me share a funny, not really, it wasn't really that funny, but kind of funny story of what happened to me in Bogota, because something similar happened to you. So for those who are not familiar with Bogota, it's the capital of Colombia. Amazing city, amazing food, very affordable, but it's also at 9,000 feet altitude. So it's very high. It's one of the highest capitals in the world, I believe. So if you haven't been at a high altitude like that, it can have like a bit of an effect on your body if you're not used to it. And so basically what happens is like, you can there's less oxygen in the air, so you kind of sometimes you run out of air very fast, and you find yourself like breathing really heavily. And it didn't really bother me that much, but then the day that I flew back yesterday, we got to the airport and we had a long walk to our gate. And so we were kind of just walking, pretty fast just to, just kind of make it on time. And suddenly, like, my vision started getting blurry. And it was very scary. Like, I couldn't read the signs anymore. And, like, even, like, people that were walking past me, like, I couldn't focus on them. My whole vision became blurry. And it was really scary. I started feeling nauseous and I was telling my wife, I was like, "Wow, there's something wrong here," and she wanted to go shopping, and I'm like, "Hey, let's sit down," and like, I told her like, "Can you stay here?" Because I'm kind of scared, like I don't know what the hell's going on, I have some sort of medical problem here, but then she told me like, "Well, this is probably the altitude, and I've had this before where I almost fainted, and it's a new experience for me." But yeah, I had to sit down for 30-45 minutes, pretty much till the final boarding call, and I wasn't sure if I was going to jump on the plane because I was like, I don't know if I can fly right now,
Yeah.
But then I started feeling a little better. My wife, she put some hand sanitizer on a napkin and put it under my nose, and she told me that would help, and it actually did. Not sure why, but anyway, this is a scary story. But you told me something similar happened to you.
Yeah, so it was a couple of years ago. We had about a 24-hour layover in Bogota, headed to Cartagena, which is absolutely gorgeous area. But we flew in, not a problem. Stayed at a hotel. When we were leaving that morning, it's a pretty spread out airport, right? And to your point, you've got some distance that you've got to cover, and especially in the mornings, you're kind of a little bit maybe rushing to the gate. My wife, it was for our baby moon. She was pregnant with my daughter. So my wife's like 8 months pregnant on top of the altitude, right? So we start walking to the gate, similar situation, and not as intense, but certainly it was. We had to stop, and we had to, we ate a little bit and kind of take a break. But that altitude difference there is pretty intense. And we run 2, 3, 4 times a week, and generally pretty good shape. But it's something different that your body has to acclimate to.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And for those who are not so familiar with the altitudes, like 9,000 feet, that's a solid top of a skiing mountain, right? Like a mountain, like a resort. That's serious altitude right there, right? That's not a little hill or something. So
yeah, definitely. And I went with my dad to Machu Picchu, and we stayed overnight in Cusco in Peru. And similar situation there, where they tell you a minimum of 24 to 48 hours, really up to a week, for your body to kind of acclimate to that climate and to that lower oxygen point there.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this, if you ever have a stopover in Bogota and you start feeling unwell, don't worry, nothing wrong with you. It's just the altitude. It's very normal. Awesome, man. Well, let's dive into it. So you're the founder of DLRJ Holdings. Why don't you explain how you came up with that name first? Because I thought it was cool.
Yeah, so created the LLC was August of last year, middle of August, and just kind of racking our brains of how, if we're going to create a holding company, what should we name it, and these type of things. Obviously, it's going to be long lasting, and so we just took the first initial of each of our names. So Derek, my wife's Lauren, and my kids are Ryan and Jocelyn. So DLRJ Holdings is the kind of the property holding company. That's kind of how we came up with it.
Right. And tell us your background and your story of you had a full-time job and then you decided to go all in on this. Clearly, you've really taken a professional approach from the get-go, establishing your LLC and joining our program and everything. Tell us a story on how that went for you.
Yeah, well, my background, I spent about 5.5 years, almost 6 years in the solar industry, specifically focusing on residential solar sales and installation. Was with a really, really great company that got acquired by a publicly traded company, and had a fantastic experience and really ride at the end of the day. We went from, being a small company, I was employee number 159, and now we got basically absorbed by a company that's 25,000+ employees. So incredible experience. When I exited that company, it was about 3 weeks ago now, and kind of really started focusing full time into the business. I covered all of the Midwest. And so I had about 150 employees that worked for me, and we're just focusing on the solar and clean energy and replacing people's electric bills, and really, really great experience. I've always wanted to be in real estate, and specifically short-term rentals, the Airbnb, it always interested me. And so when the opportunity came up in this small little town outside of San Antonio, typical vacation rental market, we've actually stayed in this house a few different times personally. And when we saw it for sale, we thought, I guess if not now, when? That was in October of last year. And then renovated that 49 days later, got that in service before the end of the year, and really set to break some records, not only in that house, but in the entire market. So when I do something, I go full force and all in. And so while I was sad to see say goodbye to my team there at the company, it was at some point you take a bet on yourself, and take a bet on your family. And that's what we've done here.
Awesome. And tell us about the experience of starting this taking over this house, and then how were you able to get such great results?
Yeah. Well, it's a very old school vacation rental market. And, just actually up until there's still some houses there where, when you check in and you may pay in the summertime $1,000 a night, you have to bring your own linens, right? So it's in that sense, you got to stop by the office and pick up a key and these type of things. So very old school management, but great people there. Just a small Texas town by a river. So really great, from a guest experience, it's really nice. Saw the house for sale, purchased it, and then went into renovations. Home was built in 2007. It was a little bit outdated there. So we went into renovations. Lauren and I did a lot of it ourselves. And, 49 days later, got that live middle to end of December. It had a long rental history, which is really cool for us to have those financials to reflect on and know the pacing and, what dates are generally booked and for what rates and where's our benchmark that we can know, hey, we've succeeded. And so I think in the best year, they did a little over $60,000. We're basically halfway through April, and we have booked $105,000 for the year. And I think that we'll probably end the year somewhere between 150 to 170. So at minimum, we're going to double, but probably will triple the best year that property has done. But I think more importantly, though, is the marketplace, because, we invested our time and money to create a great guest experience there at the house. But we're pacing to be definitely in the top 10%, if not higher, in the entire marketplace. So really good experience so far, and we're looking to definitely probably expand more and dominate that marketplace.
Yeah, that sounds like a great market to be in. Those are kind of the markets that Eric and I are looking at too, where you can kind of take over these old school managed places and really increase the revenue. So great job on that. Like 2-3 times that's incredible. How was the process of taking over the home? Like, did you take over the Airbnb account, or did they have like a list of past guests that you would take over that you're marketing to? How was the transition?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it was signed up with a traditional property management. They charge 30%. So they gross revenue, they were doing 60 on their best year, but they were walking with, let's say, 45 or 50, right? And once you take into account, all the expenses that go along with it, I can definitely understand the owner's position on maybe why they even sold, right? Because those numbers don't flesh too well. So we took that over. We took it off of the management company. We knew we wanted to self-manage and implement all the systems and processes to have a really tight control on the guest experience. Once we went live, we listed it on the OTAs, Airbnb, VRBO, and Booking.com, and then we've got our direct booking site too. There was 2 reservations which we did honor, and those are coming up pretty shortly. But other than that, we still have a great relationship with the management company. And look, we get guests all the time where we're booked, we're overbooked, or they have a bigger party. They have 30 people instead of us accommodating 20, and we're able to send them business. So to have a great relationship, especially in a small town like that, it's definitely a give and take.
Yeah, for sure. So you created completely new listings for this unit?
completely new. No reviews.
Yeah.
So, and now we're at 16 over all the OTAs. We're at 16 5-star reviews, and we're wanting to obviously maintain that rating there through the guest experience.
Yeah, and that's a question that we get quite a lot from students and listeners is like, when you take over a house, is it best to take over the Airbnb listing or create a new one? And most people seem to think that there's a lot of value in taking over the old Airbnb account. But I think if you're kind of like up-leveling the experience, it might be your best bet might actually just be creating a new listing. You get some extra visibility from Airbnb, right, with a new listing. And you can build up those reviews pretty quickly. Plus, if you're changing the guest experience a lot, then you don't necessarily want those older reviews because they're not really going to reflect. They're not representing like the experience that you're currently offering, right? So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think I was talking with the property manager, and I said, generally once you win a guest, meaning they stayed with you. In this market, they'll continue to rebook the same dates next year. For example, in Easter, we've got the same family that's staying next Easter, right? They've already rebooked that. But I think with that being said, it's you kind of win over that guest, and that you own them. Now, I was telling the property manager, what an incredible a surprise. These guests that have stayed there before the renovation, before we focused on the guest experience, they're going to show up to a completely, essentially brand new house with amenities that they were not used to. So hopefully we obviously win them over and they stay with us directly.
Yeah. What are some of the upgrades, like in terms of amenity and kind of the guest experience? What kind of like the main upgrades that you guys implemented?
Yeah. So it's approximately, it's a 5-bedroom, 5.5 bathroom house. It was built in 2007. When you walk in, so the entire house is almost bulletproof. It's a stone exterior. And the interior, when you walked in, is all T111. It's exterior plywood siding, essentially. So if you're not having any paint, your eyes kind of just melt when you used to walk in because, everything was just the same color wood, right? And yeah, which is fine, like in a cabin experience. But we wanted to, in order to elevate the income, we wanted to elevate the experience. And so, we didn't need to do anything major. The bones were good. We, instead of a concrete, it was a stained concrete floor, which was kind of coming up. We put in luxury waterproof vinyl flooring there that was a dark wood. And then we replaced the countertops with white quartz. We refinished the cabinets in the kitchen to a darker gray, and then in the bathrooms a dark navy blue. And we just did accent walls in all of the bedrooms, kept the furniture in the bedrooms, and then we used an app called Havenly for the design of the actual living spaces. In the living room, and then in the exterior, in the rear, has 1,400 square feet that's fully covered. So we wanted, when a guest walks in through the door, you want their experience to be a wow moment. And so we focused on the design heavily in those areas where they would definitely first enter, and that way you get a good first experience there.
Yeah, I saw you just posted, I think yesterday it was, in our Legends X Slack, that you got your first direct booking through Google.
Yeah, it was the first one where we didn't know where the guests came from. We've had other direct bookings, but they're just kind of through social or through friends and family. And so I reached out immediately to the guests. This was on Easter, and they had some questions. So I said, hey, by the way, hey, how did you find us? And she said, well, we've been coming to the area for 12 years. We typically stay with X, Y, and Z management company. But we just did a Google search and we found you. And so I thought that was the coolest thing. I mean, this is a $4,300 direct booking for May and June. And I thought that was the neatest thing that, it was just in January that we launched a direct booking site. We've been focusing on SEO, blog post updates, and we put our reviews also on the direct booking website, which Google takes that data, from the 5-star reviews, and when your listing or your website shows up with Google, it's showing those 5-star reviews almost as if it was a Google business. So I think the combination of those two is something that we're obviously going to lean heavily on, and we're investing more into development of that.
That's awesome, man. Well, congrats. And do you know what they actually Googled, like the keyword that they actually entered in Google?
That's a great question, and that's probably something I'm going to ask. Because I've kind of Google searched a few different keywords, and depending on what you're searching for, we do come up. So generally, it's the old school property management. They've been around forever, that kind of come up first. But with us offering a different guest experience, which I'll talk a little bit about in a minute. That's what's going to differentiate ourselves, in particular in a market where you've got, brand new houses on the golf course or on the riverfront that are asking the same pricing as us. And so if we're not riverfront or if we're not on the golf course, like, how could we be different? Well, that's through design. That's through the guest experience, from the time they book to the time they leave. And that's what's allowing us to earn the same amount or more many nights and be 30% more occupied than our closest competitors in the market.
Yeah, so share a little bit about that guest experience. Like, what are you guys really focusing on? Like, you've touched on design. Walk us through that whole process of like when the guest books until they leave.
Yeah, I think sometimes we almost believe that if it's through an OTA such as Airbnb or VRBO, like, we don't have a lot of control, and I completely disagree. Look, the first guest experience starts on, generally speaking, on an OTA, and ultimately they've done a fantastic job of creating a easy flowing website that allows a guest to book, right? And that's where most of all of our business comes from. So, it starts obviously with great photos, with a great title, with a great description, optimizing all of that so that it makes sense for the guest as they go through your photos as if they were walking through the house. Highlighting the design features of the house and focusing on amenities that generally the guest doesn't have at home, right? Because if they're going somewhere, they're paying $1,000, $1,200 a night. Why would they do that if they have everything at home, right? If they're already on the river, if they already have a hot tub and different amenities, these type of things, right? So that's where it starts. And then I would say then immediately after booking, we do a sequence of automations through our property management system. We use Guesty for hosts, which is the first one I signed up for, not really knowing much of anything, but we've had a great experience with them. And what happens immediately after they book, whether it's direct or through the OTAs, is they're going to get a booking confirmation through the platform, just saying, hey, my name's Derek and Lauren, and we're really excited to host you. If you could just send us your estimated day and arrival, we'll send you, all the info you need. And then they're also getting immediately a text message that has our link to our guidebook, which we believe is completely different than anything in the marketplace that's currently being offered. And that's highlighting all the features of the home, how to work the hot tub and the grill and these type of things, but also points of interest. So immediately that's their guest experience, right? Right out of the gate. Because look, Airbnb, VRBO, they're respected in the marketplace, but there's still some hesitation, I believe, in some guests when they book is like, okay, I booked. Like, now what happens, right? Is this real, right? And so getting that immediate confirmation with a text message from us, hey, here's our guidebook. We're really excited to see you and to host you guys. And then the automation goes a couple days before. It'll send the check-in instructions. It will send the guidebook again. And after they check in, there'll be an automation just, checking in on them. But that's kind of leading up to the precipice, if you will, of them physically opening the door to the property. Because you've got one shot once they open that door, right? And so it needs to go smooth. The PMS, the property management system, will generate their code to check in. And, obviously send that to them beforehand. And the moment that they open that door, what we focus on is the senses. Because ultimately, when you focus on a guest experience, it just goes back to who we are as humans. And that's through our senses, right? The touch, taste, smell, the vision, right? And so what we focused on there is the first thing, as soon as they open that door, they see obviously the design, right? Which, goes back to the app that we used, is Havenly. So we focused on that, right? So they have that wow moment. I have our housekeepers leave all the lamps on. So whether they check in at 6 p.m. and the sun's up, or it's midnight or 1 or 2 a.m. like our recent guest that flew in from New York to stay with us, they're greeted with light. And I think that's very important. They've got a navigator on the house, so all the lamps in the living room, in the kitchen, and in all the bedrooms are turned on. And to the right-hand side, when you walk in, there's a lamp, but underneath that lamp is a handwritten note. And we use what's a website called Handwritten, with a Y, handwritten.com. And we printed, it doesn't say their name specifically. That would be really challenging to keep up with. But it just says, hey, thank you. And we're excited to host you. This home means a lot to us, and we're excited for you to experience all the amenities. And, we're excited also for you to just gaze that, Texas sky, all the stars. And so we're delivering that. It's signed by Lauren and I. And then on the TV in the living room, we use an app called OptiSigns. And it's a welcome screen customized with her name. It's got a low-tempo music that goes with the theme of the house. And it's much like you'd find in like a Ritz-Carlton or a Marriott when you check in. It's got your name on it. And so that's kind of the visual experience there. And then we're using a air freshener. It's called Pura, Pura. And we're actually curating the smell. So when they're checking in the evenings, it's we're out kind of in the country. It's almost like a cabin-like feel. We're using a balsam and a fir smell when they check in, and during the day it's like more of a citrus, sugary type of smell. So those are all the senses that we're kind of hitting on for immediately they're walking in and they're saying they're relieved, right? And now it's time to relax, and they've made the right decision to stay with us and to stay with our brand.
Yeah. Dude, it's so important. And I love how you broke it down with like the vision. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? What do you smell? I think the smell is probably like kind of overlooked maybe sometimes. I know I always stay at a hotel whenever I'm in Asia. It's called the Shangri-La Hotel. And literally, like, the reason I always want to go back there is because you walk into the lobby and it smells a certain way. And I just really like that smell. And I just want to go back there because of that, you know?
Yeah.
It's crazy how that works. But yeah, I mean, I love how you broke that down. And, you know, if you walk into a home like that and you notice immediately, like, through what you see and what you smell and what what you hear, you immediately notice, like, wow, there's a lot of thought that went into this, right? And it immediately makes you feel comfortable of like, okay, I'm clearly staying with a very professional host, which means that I can relax now, because if there's anything I need, that host is probably going to look after me, right? Because they put this much detail in you know, that experience, like, they're going to make sure that we have a great stay.
And I would say, look, ultimately what we do every day in hosting guests, like, stuff will go wrong, right? Like, it's just natural that at some point it will, right? Whether it's in our control or out of our control. And that takes us back to systems and processes. But ultimately stuff goes wrong, right? But if they walk in and they have a great first experience, they're almost going to not brush it over, but they'll be a little bit more, allow us to fix it a little bit more easily. Because to your point, you know, hey, I'm staying with a professional host that cares about me and my family. And so they're going to do what's right, versus they walk in, it's pitch black. They can't find the light switch. They don't know. It doesn't smell that great. They're already off on a wrong foot. So I think in that case also they'll take greater care of your home. And so, you know, because it's more of a personalized, I'm staying with Derek and Lauren, and this means a lot. This home means a lot to them and their family. And so I'm going to, you know, obviously take care of their home too. So I think that's an interesting point on that end too. Yeah.
No, it's true, man. Like, I guess they're so much more forgiving when they can tell that you're putting in effort, right? That you have an eye for detail. You're really trying hard to create the best experience possible. I'll give an example. Like, I rented this incredible home on the Caribbean coast here in Panama a couple of weeks ago, and it was a new home. It was the first booking on Airbnb. It was an old French lady that she actually built it herself. And it was in the middle of nowhere on a hill. Like, she even created the road. Like, we had to rent a 4x4 to even be able to get up there.
Wow.
And we were her first guests, and she was awesome. She was living on the property, and, you know, she was so welcoming. She drove us up to the beach one day, and, you know, she was this amazing person. However, this was a new Airbnb, and she didn't have that much, you know, she didn't have any experience with hosting, I think. So, you know, she was definitely missing. There was definitely things missing, you know. For one thing, the water didn't work for like a day or so. So we literally, like, after going to the toilet, we grabbed like water from the pool in a bucket and like flushed it that way, you know.
Yeah.
But still, like you know, we're not going to complain. You know, I still gave her like a 5-star review, because I'm just like, okay, you know, I'm forgiving because I just, you know, really liked her as a host.
Yeah. Now, I know you stay in a lot of Airbnbs and that type of thing. When you experience these, and obviously you've got an eye for, you know, you've seen thousands of different processes and Airbnbs and stuff like that. When you guys stay at somewhere like that, there's a section you can give private, you know, feedback to the host. Is that something that you guys are giving to the host of X, Y, and Z? This is what I would do, or
100%. I mean, we gave her a whole list of feedback items, you know, which she really appreciated, and now she actually invited us to stay for free next time. right?
Oh, that's
So
great.
it's really like it's really like we didn't ask for any, we weren't even going to ask, even because there were some things that didn't work. There were some things that needed to be improved. But you know what? Like the price was also, it was our first time, hosting. The price was very affordable, so we didn't ask for anything. But she was like, "Hey, I really appreciate you guys' feedback, and really sorry for the inconvenience and this and that. I want to offer you guys a free stay. Like, please come back. You can stay for free, right?" So, yeah, it's awesome.
And I would say one thing, that maybe hosts think about, maybe they don't. In particular, if they don't physically live on site, is like take the weekend or a week, even better, and just stay at your property. Like you're gonna find, before we launched Adelante, we stayed there, obviously, and with our kids, because our guest avatar is someone that's similar to us with a family. The home sleeps 20. It's not one family. It's a blended type situation. They've got kids, right? And so with us staying there for a few days or 4 or 5 days before, you find some interesting things that you're like, oh yeah, that doesn't work, or this works great, or I like this, or let's change that. That just allows for that guest experience to be even more, flawless.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Definitely want to stay at your own properties. Awesome, man. Well, this was great. Really appreciate you sharing this. I think this is going to be very helpful for everybody listening. Before we wrap this up, if people are in Texas and they want to maybe stay at your home, or they're interested in learning more about hosting and how you've gotten these results, how can people get in touch with you?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So, Jasper, I'll send you, obviously the link to our direct booking site. It's stayadelante.com. And then my email is pretty simple. It's Derek, DEREK, at DLRJ Holdings.com. And, if I can help out in any way, to consult or to kind of help that guest experience is really what we're specializing in and focusing. Feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to share all of our systems, and help as much as I can.
Awesome. Sweet, man. Well, I appreciate you jumping on here. I appreciate you be crushing it in our program. So awesome job on that. And to the listeners, hope you enjoyed this podcast. I'm sure there's a couple nuggets that you've taken away from it. And sorry for the late publishing of this podcast. But we'll be back on Friday and on Monday. So have a great week and see you then.